How far would you go for validation? And at what point does the hunger for likes and followers stop being about connection and start becoming a cage you've built for yourself? Today's returning guest is Lesley Camphouse, an independent author known for crafting psychologically intense, extreme horror that doesn't just shock, it unsettles you at a soul deep level. Her latest novel, A Hollow Dream, has been called extreme misery porn, and it's a brutally honest exploration of influencer culture told through the lens of erotic horror. Drawn from real life experiences and observations, Lesley takes us inside the mind of Georgia, a desperate college student who trades her authenticity for visibility and finds herself trapped in a nightmare of exploitation and psychological manipulation. This is the Dark Mind Podcast. If you enjoy the show, consider supporting it by subscribing to my Patreon, where you'll find exclusive narrative fiction audio short stories narrated and produced by me, Vincent Midgard. Head over to patreon.com/The Dark Mind Podcast and become a citizen of the darkness. You can also support the show for free by subscribing to my YouTube channel. Your support helps keep the dark conversation alive. So without further ado, I give you Lesley Camphouse. Lesley, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me on this 22nd day of November 2025. I'm a huge fan of extreme horror, so it's no surprise that my interest was instantly sparked when I learned you'd written an erotic horror novel that's been dubbed, quote, extreme misery porn. And honestly, I think that label is pretty spot on. The horror unfolds as a slow burn, fueled equally by anxiety and a haunting sense of eroticism. The psychological manipulation is next level depraved and leaves the reader exhausted, wondering how much darker the story can possibly get. All in all, the novel delivers an emotional experience that's as brutal as it is thrilling. So thank you so much for joining me on the show once again to dive into your latest unforgettable novel.
Well, thank you so much again for having me.
Absolutely. Well, so to give a brief synopsis before we get started, the book is about a young woman named Georgia who is a college student scraping by. She's skeptical of the influencer world, but desperate to make ends meet. At her best friend Pia's urging, she attends a swanky juice party where aspiring social media stars hope to be discovered. There she meets Garrett, a powerful agency head who promises her money, fame, and belonging. Tempted by the promise of security, Georgia steps willingly into his world of curated glamour, only to find herself trapped in a system built on exploitation, manipulation, and the endless hunger for clicks. As her social media stardom rises, Georgia begins to lose pieces of herself, her choices, her voice, her sense of reality. And that is where the story really takes off. So, what made you want to explore the influencer world through horror? And what about this setting felt uniquely fertile for psychological dread?
So, this is actually one of the first things that I ever wrote for myself. And it's a world that I am familiar with, not only by myself, but also what I've seen via friends. um, where they just kept pushing their own boundaries. And I thought it would be interesting to explore that to a further end, so to say, like how far would you go if you really crave that validation so badly, like, and if you actually have nobody really around you to tell you to stop.
Yeah, I was actually thinking in terms of my own podcast. I was like, how far would I? I'm, al- I'm, al- I'm always getting these podcast promoters, I guess, that are
Hmm.
emailing me saying, your show is great, but you're,
You just need to take your shirt off.
yeah, yeah, I need an OnlyFans, I suppose. I don't know how much traction I'd get on that, but yeah, it's interesting. I've been tempted, like, how effective are these people really, and how do you tell which ones are legit and which ones are just like, sending you Chat GPT, you know,
Right.
pre-formatted just blurbs that are generic to everybody. So I don't know. Well, how did you approach crafting Georgia's descent? Was there a specific moment or scene that crystallized her transformation for you, like sort of a point of no return?
Um, well, I've been in these kind of relationships myself, of course, not to that extent. So for me, it was more about um, taking the reader really on that journey, like how, because so often you hear people say things like if you read something in the news about like a female going through something or that, that she's been abused or something like that, and people are always like, why don't you just walk away? And I think what I really wanted to do with this was to show it's not that easy to just step out, so to say. So I don't really think that there was anything that really crystallized it for me or the whole transformation. I think the reason why I started it with the prologue was just for you as the reader to already understand that she already basically saw herself as being unworthy even to live, because that's basically what she's been told as a child. So I don't really think there's a specific moment. I think it's really about the whole journey for her, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, like whether or not there's a point of no return, I wonder if that would be considered. I'm trying to put into perspective. How old was she when her parents died?
But she was 17,
17. Okay,
16
so
or 16 or 17, but she looked like she was like 11 or something because she was so malnourished and so neglected.
yeah. So I think if I remember my lifespan developmental psychology, uh, I think it's like 7 to 11 is the concrete developmental stage. It's almost like before she even met Garrett that that stamping of unworthiness is pretty much already putting her in that point of no return. Not that what Garrett did wasn't just the most severe psychological gaslighting, terrorism, manipulation on the face of the planet. But on top of that, he was able to, sniff out the weakness, the insecurity. Not that she was weak; she's a survivor in a sense, but like, she's
Yeah, you exude a certain energy that make you easier to
yeah,
pick out. Yeah, 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 for sure.
yeah. So, yeah. Mm. Well, Georgia's character arc centers on being hollowed out, becoming less of herself as she gains more and more followers. How did you decide what parts of her to strip away first?
That's a good question. I really based that on what I saw in my own environment, so to say. It's what I also described in the book, right? You first show a little bit more of your skin and you keep justifying it to yourself. And when then the reception is good, it cements that sensation that you're doing well, that you made the right decision, so to say.
Yeah, I have seen. There was this particular woman I followed on Instagram, I think. I play guitar, and she's like a classical guitarist, and
Mm.
I noticed pretty much not much guitar anymore. A lot of it's just like glamour shots. Now it's all she's wearing beautiful dresses and stuff like that, but I'm just counting the days soon.
Yeah, but it's also because that's what attracts the engagement, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And of course, that's the thing. Like, if you want to put your stuff out there, you do need the engagement. You do need the new followers, because if that doesn't happen, basically your social media falls flat, and then it's kind of like, well, what am I doing here? For who am I doing this?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I think especially as a woman, I wouldn't say it's expected, but like it's almost sort of expected. Like the more popularity that you gain, the more people kind of feel that you should put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Like I had it myself with a different account that I have that was doing well, and at some point people were like, "Yeah, show your face," and I was like, "I don't want to show my face," and they were like, "Yeah, but you will get more engagement," and I was like, "But I don't want to get more engagement in that sense. Like this is what it is about, and this is what I want to keep it about." But it's interesting to see because then I think again, as a woman, you might also wonder, like, how often do you get that question, for example, as a
Me.
man?
But
Yeah. Well,
what?
for your
What's
podcast, like how often do you get the question like, "Hey, show yourself more. Hey, make a little bit more of a racier photo, or show a little bit more skin."
not
You
race your
know?
photo. I have gotten show yourself more, not in the sense of like expose myself, but just like when I initially started, actually it was audio only and I didn't put up
Mm.
pictures of myself. But yeah, not like, hey, why don't you
Yeah.
show a little leg?
Hey, you never know where
Yeah.
it gets you, though.
Yeah, maybe I should. Uh, well, the book explores how we trade authenticity for visibility. Did writing this story change how, and I mean, we're pretty much kind of talking about it right now. Did writing this story change how you interact with social media? Because I feel like, I mean, you are showing yourself. I mean, not in that way. You know what I mean? But showing yourself more, right?
Yeah, I do sometimes post a photo of myself more in the sense of like, it almost feels like you kind of have to, so people kind of know who's behind the book, so to say. But yeah, I've gone through a phase myself when I was younger that I did indeed had like, on social media where you just put photos of yourself on there. And I did have friends who were like, instead of wear nerdy t-shirts, wear something else. I was kind of like, no, but I like my nerdy t-shirt, like I don't wanna wear something else. Um,
Yeah.
and it did make me question a little bit like, what the hell am I doing? Like, is this really me? And I kind of came to the conclusion that it's not. Like, it feels forced. Like, why am I even doing this? Like, it felt like I had to do it to belong or something like that. Because a lot of my friends were doing it, but they were indeed, posting like bikini shots and stuff like that. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And yeah, I just decided to just delete everything. And ever since, I'm kind of like, no, it's just not for me. Like, nothing against people who do it. I mean, good for you. It's just not something I feel comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that somebody told me, and I kind of have to agree with them in some sense, is that when I was initially only doing audio only and I wouldn't ever put pictures of myself up, I had somebody that I interviewed on the show that asked me why I didn't do that. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. And she's like, I mean, I understand you don't want to like just plaster yourself all over the place, but if you don't at least show what you look like, people don't trust you. I was
Hmm,
like, maybe. I
that's
don't
an
know.
interesting concept.
Yeah, like what are you hiding from? Type of thing. Like I
Hmm.
don't know. At the time I was kind of hiding because I had a stalker at one point.
Oh,
So
wow.
so I was somewhat hiding. I mean not
Yeah.
really, but I in the past I was like, "You know what? It's probably best I just keep a low profile." But
Yeah, but that makes
yeah.
sense.
But then I got into video and you kind of can't do video without your face. So
I mean, you can put a mask on.
yeah, oh, but that would be creepy. Like those masks the guys wear in your book. Like, oh.
I mean, for some it works, right?
Actually, I had a guy on. Oh, I blurbed his book. He's gonna kill me if he ever sees this. He wears a skull mask because I don't know, I guess like he's a handsome guy. And he just wanted people to read his books based on their merit.
Is it Ash Ericmore or? I mean, there's
No.
several who do it. So
Oh, are there? Okay. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they called him the enigma of Instagram. Uh,
Oh, then I
um,
don't know.
he was literally like I think the fifth guest I ever interviewed. So this was like 3 years ago.
But I mean, I can understand it, I guess, from the perspective because I mean, especially if you write the stuff that some of us write, I can understand that not everybody wants to be. I mean, even I find it uncomfortable to do it because people also have the tendency to associate you with those books or think that you really are like the people that you write in the books.
Yeah. Yeah. And just on top of all of that, I kind of just feel goofy doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
it's for sure. It's very uncomfortable.
yeah, I took a picture. I was in a Barnes and Noble in San Antonio, and I saw on the horror shelf they had a book by Eric LaRocca and a book by Gabino Iglesias. I was like, "Oh, that's cool." So I grabbed the two, and I was taking a picture of myself holding the books, and I did a like, "Oh, look, the Barnes and Noble in San Antonio's killing it with their author curation," and I was holding the books, and I started thinking, I was like, God, I hope nobody sees me. Because I don't know. I feel goofy doing that for some reason. I
Yeah,
know that's what you have to do to get those pictures that I love to look at on social media.
yeah.
But,
But it's different when you
it,
look at other people. You're like, oh, that's so cool, and then when you do it yourself, you feel
yeah,
so cringe, right?
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
what it
yeah.
is.
Cringe,
Yeah,
cringe is the word. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Well, circling back to the book, Garrett doesn't use force in the traditional sense. He uses seduction, opportunity, and George's own desires masterfully. What makes that kind of villain more terrifying to you than outright monsters?
I think it makes it more terrifying because you don't really realize it's sneaking up on you until it's kind of too late. Like when you're already stuck. And I think a lot of people will recognize this when they've been in like an emotionally abusive relationship. It's the constant push and pull. They do something or they say something horrible and it upsets you. And then the first thing they do is they flip on it. And so all of a sudden you feel bad for them and you feel guilty for even thinking that badly or feeling sad for what they did before. And it's a real part of my French, like it's a real mind fuck, so to say. And I think that's what makes it more terrifying than somebody who just, I don't know, uses force on you. Because at least it's something that how do you say that? You can see coming. Like if somebody always forces you to do certain things, you kind of get into that mindset of that you expect it to happen. And I think the the way that Garrett does it, it's something that really, yeah, it creeps up on you. Like you don't even really realize what's happening to you, and all you want to do as a person is just justify their actions, especially if you love them. And that for me makes it way scarier, getting the physical part of it or being forced.
Yeah, and I guess like if they're a monster that physically assaults you, at least there is, even if there's a, what do they call that, disparity of force from them being bigger than you or stronger than you, whatever, at least there are still ways you can mitigate that. You can grab the nearest blunt object or sharp object and just start going to town. But psychological is really, like you said, you do, it's almost like the, what's that metaphor, the frog in the boiling pot of water, you know.
Could be, I don't know. It's more like a noose, like it's slowly being pulled tighter, tighter, tighter. And you don't even realize it's around your neck and you're suffocating on it.
Yeah, that's the frog metaphor. They put them in the
Oh,
water, and it's
yeah.
like, oh, the water's a little warm. That's kind of nice.
Oh,
And
and
then
it's
the
slowly
next thing
being
you know,
boiled.
it's in a full boil. It's too late.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're just stuck.
Uh, yeah. Well, so now the juice party. I can't
Mhm.
remember, what does the juice acronym stand for?
Oh God, what was it again? I think it was like based on like a cocktail or something like that. You put two components or multiple components together and it creates something perfect.
Oh, okay. So it's not
I
an
think it was
acronym.
something like that. No, no,
Yeah.
no. I don't even know how I come up with it. Like these things come to me randomly and I just write it down somewhere and then I'm like, oh,
Okay.
and I email it to myself or I have it somewhere on my phone. But this is like
But
more than a year ago, so
oh, okay. So like, I'm sure there probably are parties like juice parties, but like a juice party, trademark, whatever name like that doesn't exist. That's something
not
you
that I'm
create.
aware of. Like
Okay.
I don't know. I've never been to these parties. Like it was just something that made sense for me.
It's not like a
Like
P.
you
Diddy
said, like
party.
it's oh no. not these ones. But yeah, no, I mean, it made sense to me that, like what you said, like I'm sure these sort of parties exist. I don't know, I've never been to one, but for the story, it made sense. Like it made sense for them to go to these sort of things. I needed
Yeah.
it for the story, basically.
Yeah. Well, so Georgia walks into the party thinking she's making a practical choice, definitely not a doomed one. So when you were writing her, what did you see as her fatal flaw? Desperation, naivete, ego, something else?
I think definitely the first two. I think definitely desperation and naivety. Like I really think that she wants to believe, right? She really wants to believe that even though she has this little voice in her head that says that her best friend looks better, that that she doesn't have any talents, like, who would even want to go for her? But then she also really has a desperation to get that validation. And that's the reason why she goes there, right? Because she sees that her engagement is dwindling and she's like, I need this. It's basically like some sort of drug or something, like, it's like something that she gets off on. Um, and I think it's also her naivety that she doesn't really see any danger into these things.
Well, so there's a particular horror in realizing you volunteered for your own exploitation. How important was it for you that Georgia actively says yes at each stage instead of simply being forced? Kind of bounces off the question I asked about, psychological manipulation versus monsters, because I think if I remember correctly, up until the last horrific thing, I mean, even though she's just completely gaslit and in a state of delusion, says yes, right?
Yeah, so I don't really even think it's about saying yes constantly. It's more about feeling like you don't really have another option than to say yes because you want to please that person so badly because you are in love with them. And now, of course, what he does, of course, is like he retreats from her, right? So she tries everything to get back to that initial feeling in the beginning. And I think that's also very classic behavior in these sort of relationships. Of course, this is way worse than, well, I mean, it's already horrible to be in such a relationship, but of course, this goes even beyond that. So I don't really think it's about her saying yes constantly. I think it's more an organic reaction because this is just how it is when you are emotionally trapped in these kind of relationships. And I really wanted to show that, like, it's interesting for me to also see in reviews that unfortunately, especially women actually recognize themselves in the story because they've been in these type of relationships. So for them, it's really like a gut punch to really like now read it as an outsider, so to say.
Yeah, it's like an extreme form of coquettishness. I mean, I hate to use such a benign term for what he did, but I mean, just the withdrawal back and forth.
It's classic. Yeah, it's classic
Yeah,
manipulation for sure.
yeah. Yes, indeed. Well, the juice party feels like a cattle call for commodified people. What research, if any, did you do into how influencer agencies actually operate? Like, I mean, we kind of discovered the influencer parties, but like, as far as what was the name of the woman that was in charge of her photographs? People,
Nikki.
yeah, Nikki. People like Nikki that, kind of are handlers for social influencers.
So, in all honesty, I didn't do any research about it. It goes back again to when I was like myself on that sort of journey, I would say. Um, and what you really see is like, I mean, nothing against, of course, influencers, but I think most of them are curating their feeds and everything like the same, which makes sense because it works, right? I mean, that's what attracts people. So why would you deviate from what works? But again, I'm going back to that friend of mine who, at some point kind of, went into that rabbit hole herself. And I remember her at some point getting Botox because she was like, I need Botox. And I was like, okay, well, I don't, go for it. You do you. And she went there and then she came back crying from her consultation. And I was like, oh, what's wrong? And she was like, yeah, like my whole face isn't right. And I need fillers in my cheeks. Like my chin is not okay. I don't have a chin. My lips are too flat. This, that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what the hell? Like you went there for a consultation to get like, why, how did you came back all ruined that your face isn't right? And she was like, you don't understand because, you don't care about these things. And I was like, well, that's not true. But like your face is fine. Um, but she went through with it anyway. And when she was done, she made a comment where she said, I finally understand why all of them smile the same way because there's no way for you to smile anymore. And she got like the fillers in her cheeks, in her chin. Her lips were like this. Her whole face, like her eyebrows went from here to here because she got too much Botox in it. Like, and of course it's an extreme example, but that was literally a person in my life who went through it. And so those sort of things, not inspired might not be the right word, but it kind of did basically made me base those things on, like I can envision young women, being receptive to that sort of feedback, like if they go to a doctor to get a certain thing and, they get talked into certain procedures. And it's interesting because at some point I wanted to get my lips done myself. And I went to somebody and he just laughed in my face and he was like, I'm not going to do your lips. He said, your lips are fine. And I was like, no, they're not, like I need to have bigger lips. And he was like, says who? And I was like, well, this is like what's trending right now. Like I want bigger lips. And he was like, well, that's good for you. He said, but I ain't the one. I'm not going to do it. He said, your lips are fine. And I was like, no, but it's the lipstick. And he was like, well, then you know how to achieve it. Good for you.
Mm.
So I got a completely different experience. And I don't know what would have happened if maybe I would have gone to a person who would have been like, well, it's not just your lip, like it's your whole face that's off, I don't know
Yeah.
what it would have done with me. I don't know. But yeah, that was an interesting concept for me. And that's circling back to the question, not really research. It's really just based on real life experience that I had that I maybe exaggerated here and there or not. I mean, maybe it's spot on. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that guy wasn't or the person that your friend went to see, maybe they weren't so much judgmental as just looking for a paid. It's kind of like
Yeah, for sure.
going to a dishonest mechanic because, this is making a noise and really all it needs is
An oil
something that
change.
costs
Or,
$50. Yeah, and they're
yeah.
like, "Oh no, you should probably flush this out and you're due for a differential change and these filters all need to be changed, so it's going to be $400."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%. But yeah, I also think it's, if somebody's already insecure about certain things, you're very skeptical, to follow through on it.
Mhm. Yeah, so your friend went just to get her lips done, you said?
No, she wanted to get Botox. She wanted
Both.
to have a consultation to get Botox done. And, then
Okay.
she just returned with like, oh, my whole face is off. And she got her whole face redone. And I was like, fuck.
Okay. Oh, her whole face was off because that's what she was told?
Yes, because that's what she was
Okay,
told.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I At first I thought she went there and they did a whole bunch of stuff and messed her up and like she literally her face was messed up because they did a
No,
botched
no, no,
job.
no. So no, no, no. So she went for a consultation to get Botox, and when she came home, because she lived with me at that time, she was all in tears, and I was like, "Oh, what happened?" And then she was all like, "No, and my cheeks aren't right, my chin is too flat, my lips are not good, and blah blah blah." And I was kind of like, "Whoa, this is intense." But she got it all done, because she was so convinced that that's what she needed, and she just kind of looked like most other people who get their faces done.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the novel, when it comes to social media, kind of treats it like an invisible cage. How did you decide which aspects of influencer life to amplify to heighten the sense of entrapment, like endless scrolling, the filtered self image, the parasocial relationships?
I think all of them apply. I think we all doom scroll. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I do it. Um, I also think that we, especially online, that we provide a curated form of our lives. I mean, nobody's gonna post a picture of them just waking up, looking like crap. but we do post a picture, for example, if I don't know, if we go to a Christmas party of work because, we look nice, we clean up nicely. Um, and I think, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think where the issue comes from is when people start to compare themselves or identify themselves, or if they don't realize that social media is just well, really like a created form of our lives. For example, if I look at a person, and they have all these nice pictures, I understand that those pictures are taken with that purpose. Like, I also understand that if they wake up, they don't look like that when they wake up. You know what I mean? Um, but then again, you go back to younger people, and I've done it myself when I was younger. Obviously, there was no social media back then, but then of course you had like pop stars, like you got the posters in the magazines. And when I was younger, I genuinely believed that people had that glowing skin all the time. That their hairs always look so luscious. And when I was younger, I was always kind of like, oh, why don't I have that? Like, I want to have a glowing skin like that. Like, I don't want to have any blemishes on it. Like, I want my hair to be long and nice and everything. And I think only when you get a little bit older, you learn like, well, they are pop stars. They literally have like a whole ass team to fix that for them. And I think nowadays, and I mean, back then, of course, you got exposed to it like in magazines, but I think nowadays with social media, you get exposed to it constantly. I think it's an invisible cage that we oppose on ourselves because we allow it to happen, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. I don't even know if that makes sense, but yeah, I have thoughts about it, but it's harder for me to explain it in English than in Dutch.
Oh, yeah, I get you. Yeah, I mean, it's like anything can be abused, anything can be consumed or handled in a unhealthy, toxic way. And I don't know if you did particular research on it, but when you were talking about how I think it was Pia was telling Georgia how, oh no, you can do this. It'll make you taller. It'll make you thinner. It'll make, like that. I mean, those AI tools now exist where it used to be a filter that just covered up blemishes and made you look like you had this really amazing skin. Now it's just completely like physically altering.
You can alter your complete face. And I feel like a broken record. Again, I go back to that friend of mine because she did those things. Like she showed me those apps, for example. She was like, oh no, look, I don't like how my nose looks now. Much better. And I was like, what the hell? What did you just do? And she was like, oh, my waist should be thinner here. And she was just like, toot, 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 and completely new person,
You
from the same picture. Yeah, it was like interesting to me. And I was kind of like, but that's not really you. And she was like, it doesn't matter because people will never know what I look like in real life anyway.
Hyper reality. It's
Yeah,
like a whole separate.
Like, oh, interesting. Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, like a lot of these things in this novel are just based on stuff that I experienced in real life or that I witnessed in real life. And I think I think social media in itself is an interesting concept and what it does to the human psyche, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the video conferencing software I used to record the show just came out with a language app to where subtitles is awesome, but it actually has this weird AI tool to where it can make it look like you're actually speaking. You and your guest are both actually speaking the language. It looks pretty real. Like I did just a snippet of it it was me and Claire Castleberry speaking German. It was pretty crazy.
Next time I can just speak in Dutch and you'll be like, oh, yeah, great. Sounds nice.
No, that's after the fact. I tell you what, it's kind of expensive though. It's not something that just comes with it. I'll see how much it costs and maybe I'll release a Dutch version of this interview.
Oh, please don't.
Well, several reviewers mentioned the novel's, quote, hypnotic style. How did you use language to build that unsettling dream-like rhythm? Because I would say the way you wrote Georgia's introspection, where she just gets more and more gaslit and delusional about, unsure about what's actually happening to her. And just the the building that Garrett's business was in, it's almost kind of like a world itself, like the same way a fantasy writer would world build. You world build this gigantic, just an office building, but in actuality, it's like a just a dark world that gets worse. It's like the nine gulfs of hell, like just the, it keeps getting
Yeah.
worse and worse.
So like usually my work is pretty short. Like I'm known more for my short novellas, and I also kind of feel with extreme horror that it should be a little bit more fast paced. I always use as an example, like in an extreme horror, if it's dark, it's dark. Like I don't need to read that the clouds move in front of the moon and the light no longer whatever. Like it's dark, move on. I want to know what's going to happen. Um, and with this one, I really wanted to build up that dread, so to say. Like I really wanted people, and that's why it's also slower, and that's also why it's not an extreme horror. It's an erotic horror or mystery porn. So yeah, I channeled a lot of myself in that. Like, how did I feel when I was in a similar sort of relationship? Like, what did it do to me? What were the questions I asked myself? That inner monologue that you constantly have. Um, and I also really wanted the reader to feel and see it, almost as if you're like watching a movie or something like that. And I guess that paid off.
The cameras and curated feeds are almost another character in the book. They're always present and they're always watching. So, how did you think about the audience inside the story versus the real audience reading it? And I would have to say, I don't know, have you ever seen that movie, 2001 A Space Odyssey, directed by Kubrick?
Oh,
I forget when
sorry.
that came back. It was a while ago. Basically, a HAL, which is like an onboard, probably what was considered AI in that time period, that kind of runs this spacecraft, becomes
Okay.
sentient and goes against the crew. Like, I'm
Oh,
afraid I can't do that.
oh, nice.
But it's represented by a camera. I mean, that's how HAL monitors them. And from then on, just anytime I see a camera, it's almost like it's somebody that's wearing a mask. It represents a masked person that's observing me, right? And so, especially when it comes to like the dark web, the idea of a camera, like what was that movie, 8 millimeter, about the snuff films and stuff like that. Cameras really just in general kind of have this creepy vibe. So I guess to reiterate the question, how did you think about the audience inside the story versus the real audience reading it?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think the audience in the book, I hope I understand the question correctly. I feel there are more voyeurs. Is that the correct wording? And again, I know from my own, well, in this case, work experience, it's for them, it feels more like a safe haven. They're watching through a camera. They're not really present. It feels less real. And I think that's also what you see in the book, that the requests that she gets are getting more and more depraved. She's being edged on, and that actually happens in real life as well. And I think it's because of the camera and people watching it through a lens. It gives some sort of distance, like it makes the person less human, makes it less real, almost as if it's like a game that they're playing or something like that. So I think it also helped with, I think, for the real reader to understand that Garrett and the people watching just saw Georgia not even as an actual person anymore. Like it really was like to dehumanize her.
Yeah, it's like kind of like operating a drone.
Yeah,
You're disconnected from the violence. It's like a video game.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you were talking about the acts getting more and more depraved, like as far as what they wanted. They just kept pushing the envelope. Um, it's funny how, at least one instance I can think of, that possibility, or not possibility, that phenomenon can exist in real life. Do you know who Maria Abramovic is?
I don't.
She is like the performance artist. She did this one experiment one time where she had a table and there was all kinds of different stuff, not just violent stuff, just all kinds of different things laid out. One of them was a pair of scissors, and I guess the most extreme item was a loaded gun. And
Oh.
basically, people lined up and they could take any object on the table and do whatever they wanted to do with her. So the extreme things that I remember was people would pick up the scissors and just start cutting off parts of her hair. You know, they couldn't just go at it. They only had a second to do something and they'd move on to the next person. But it did get eventually to the point that somebody grabbed the gun. And I don't know if they pointed it at her or if they looked like they were about to, but that person got restrained because I think the gun was loaded. So,
Oh.
like, yeah, just as each person came up, it got more and more extreme.
Yeah, again, I think it's the distancing. I think it's also part of human nature because, we are so, of course, we're bound by rules. And I think the moment that people are being told like you can do whatever you want, no repercussions. I mean, you probably know The Purge, right? The movie or no?
Probably know the what?
The Purge? It's a
No,
horror
I don't.
movie. So
Oh,
it's a
no, no, no.
movie with the concept is basically that once a year, 24 hours, everything is allowed.
Oh, The Purge. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
The
Okay,
Purge.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's been
Okay.
a while since I've seen any movie.
Same for me.
Yeah.
But The Purge, like I find that concept fascinating. I also really love the series that came out of it, where you just saw people already preparing for the purge. That they already were taking certain measurements to to do the things that they wanted to do on that specific day because then it would be legal. And I genuinely think that as a society we would be so shocked if we would have that in real life. I mean, the fact what you just described, that's just people that are being told, yeah, you can do whatever, like, no repercussions. And somebody is already like, oh, I'm going to pick up the gun. Oh, I'm going to cut somebody. Like, why would you cut somebody's hair off? Like, why would you do that? Like you can also just pat her on the head and move on. Like, why do you want to already inflict some sort of damage to a person? That's already interesting and weird at the same time. So imagine if people are being told, listen, 24 hours, all bets are off. You can do whatever you want.
Mm. Yeah. I wonder if, like obviously not just year round, but if you did something like The Purge, how would that affect people for the rest of the year? If you allowed them to just go ape shit and let all that aggression out, do you think it would have an exacerbating effect? Like it would just make them that much more violent? Or do you think it would literally, hence the name, purge all that stuff out and people would be nicer to each other, calmer? I don't know.
Um, so I think the people who want to do these sort of things, they will do it anyway. They don't need a purge for that. They will just go whenever they want to go. Um, I do think it will probably wake up sides in people that will specifically wait on the purge. Maybe somebody cut you off during driving. You're like that little shit. Like I'm gonna follow him home. I'm gonna memorize where you live, and on that
Uh-huh.
specific day, I'm gonna get my revenge.
Everybody's got a
Um,
list. They're checking
I
it
I really
twice.
think so. Yeah, I really think so. So maybe that will make people nicer. But then I also feel like, people always will maybe search for something. So even if somebody's so nice, you know, I mean, you even hear people who are like, if somebody says like, hey, good morning. I mean, I do it myself if I'm in a bad mood. I'm kind of like, oh, what's your good morning for? Like, why do you even say good morning to me? Like, if I'm in a sucky mood, I'll be like that. So to answer the question, I don't really think that people will be nicer to each other. I think if anything, it will increase the feeling of dread, depression, like mental health issues. I really think it would more be on that side in a negative way.
Yeah, I wonder. Let's see. Yeah, here it is right here. So, this actually was where she just had lines and lines of people that would come and sit down, and she would just look them in the eyes for a minute. And she would see horrific things, beautiful things. People would cry. It was insane. But where is it? Yeah, 72 objects. So I guess they had tied her with stuff. Terrifying experiment. They're making her smoke. Oh, yeah, they've got something around her neck. They wrote something on her forehead. Uh, Her hair looks short, so I imagine they'd probably cut it at that point because it's pretty long. Yeah, just insane.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder what goes through people's head.
Well, so was there any particular influencer, story, or trend that sparked the core idea for the novel? Do you think readers who participate in that world would recognize themselves, or would they just see it as like pure fiction?
Somebody actually already said that she actually felt very seen. I mean, it's not a criticism on my side, like it's not a negative thing. I've been there myself. I think social media is very addictive in a sense, in a way. And of course, it's also very saturated, but it doesn't mean that there's no shot to make it, so to say. So yeah, I mean, if people feel seen, I hope that it is in a good way because I don't mean it in a negative way. Um, I don't think that there's anything wrong with, you know, posting yourself or engage a lot or try to get somewhere with it. Because I think social media in that sense is an amazing platform. I think it is the way for creators, creatives, to get an audience for what they're doing. I mean, if you look at it like 10, 15 years ago, lots of us would never be where we are right now. Like if I take myself for as an example, nobody would have read what I've written because there's no way that a publishing house would be like, oh, great stuff that you write. This is really for a big audience. Let me sign you on. No, they would never. It's very niche. So I mean, that's why I'm saying like this is not a criticism on social media at all. I think it's a great medium. So yeah, so if people feel seen or if they recognize themselves, I hope it's in a good way, not in a negative way.
Gotcha.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, in your previous show appearance, when we were talking about Eternal Wives, you talked about not knowing how your books end until you write them. Did George's fate surprise you, or did you always know where she would end up?
So funny enough, because this is one of the first things that I wrote, I sort of plotted this one, something that I rarely do because like I just suck at keeping at the plotting. um, but for this one, like I didn't want the ending to change because for me it was the ultimate ending. Like it was she gets what she wants, just not really how she envisioned it. For me, it was more the journey to it that I had an idea about, but sometimes was a little bit more surprising to me than what I expected it to turn into. But this one was actually one of the novels that I plotted pretty well, if I may say so myself. Like I had a good idea where I want to go. The thing is with most of my books, like I have a generic idea of where I want to go with it, and I have some sort of ending in mind, but the ending is not really like if it ends differently, then it messes with the rest of the story. And I felt with this novel it would, because for me this is the ultimate sacrifice that she's making to get what she wants. So it had to be that ending.
Yeah. Well, if readers walk away from a hollow dream questioning their own online habits, what specific moment in Georgia's arc do you hope sticks with them as a gut check?
Um, that's a good question. I hope that people take from it that they should not rely on other people to be successful. I think if you make your own success dependent on other people, that means that they can also take it away from you. So nothing wrong with collaborating with people, um, but don't give it away. I think that's the biggest takeaway.
Well, you have collaborated. Speaking of collaboration, you've collaborated with Jay Boot and Rashawn Adele. How does co writing change your process, especially when you're someone who writes by instinct?
So I'm lucky because they write by instinct as well. But what I usually do if I collaborate with somebody is I ask them. I ask them like, how do you write? What do you prefer? Because if somebody tells me like, hey, I prefer to plot, I mean, of cool, we can plot, and I will do my best to stick to it. Um, but like, for example, with Rishan, like we had like a vague outline of where we wanted to go with the story, but it also completely changed. Like it went into a completely different direction, and both of us were like, "This is great! Like I love how this is going." Um, and I have to say with Justin, like we are now writing we just finished book 2 together. And it's the same thing. We have like a vague sort of idea where we want to go, but it's mostly writing a chapter, give it back to the other person. And the other person's like, "Oh my God, like what did you do? How am I going to get myself out of this one?" And then when they're done, they're like, "Ha, gotcha. Let me see how you get out of this." So
Oh, snap.
it's a fun, it's a really fun way of, I really like it. It's a very fun way of writing.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Trying to one up each other. Oh my God, what did you
Yeah,
just do?
that's really what it is. And of course, sometimes, of course, you have chapters that need to be there. Also, of course, for storyline purposes. But yeah, but it's funny, because of course you read a chapter, you kind of have an idea where the other one wants to go. And if you're kind of like, you know what, nah, we're going to go a different direction, so you make a change in it and they're like, "Oh, you little shit, like, what did you do?" And that goes both ways, of course. I really like to do collabs. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
But so you guys do have some agreed upon benchmarks that you have to reach?
What do you mean? As in like storyline or?
Yeah, like not an outline per se, but more like maybe 4 benchmarks where you're like, okay, at some point we gotta hit this, this, and this. I don't care how we get there. We'll just, mess with
It,
each other the entire way. But
yeah, that's kind
yeah.
of what it is. Like, for example, with Rishan, like we were kind of like, okay, we want something sapphic because, we like that. Cannibals because we both love cannibalism. I know that sounds weird, but like it's a great subject. It's very interesting. And then we were kind of like, okay, what about the twist at the end? We were kind of like, you know what? This is what the plot twist is going to be. We're like, yeah, this sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, and then we just went for it, and things just changed along the way, or eventually we got where we were supposed to be getting, but not the way that we originally spoke about. Like, because we both were doing things differently, and we're kind of like, "Oh, this is so nice. This is so good. I love what you did in your chapter." Um, and it's the same with Justin. Like the first book, we kind of had like an idea. The second book was more like, you know what? Let's see what our characters are gonna do. I don't know. And that's why we also kind of, at some point, I told him, I said, "Look, this is like a telenovela. It's just soaked in blood and gore. That's the only difference. But like, my God, like the twists and turns, like it never stops. Like everybody is just out for each other." And there wasn't really, we were more like discussing the benchmark, like you say, while we were chatting about it. We were like, "Hey, we're kind of getting at this point. What do you think? Maybe this and this. Oh yeah, actually that sounds good. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go there." So those benchmarks came more alongside the story. Um, yeah, and sometimes it's just already there.
Gotcha. Well, the Dark Web series explores hurtcore and exploitation for profit. So, what draws you to stories where characters choose to become monsters rather than being born that way?
Well, I mean, in that series we have both, but I do think that when people are pushed into certain corners, that they behave in a certain way. And I think especially if you're being stripped from everything that gives your life some sort of purpose, that does something to the human mind, right? I mean, I think if certain things happen in your life, it changes something in your mind, and it also changes how you look at certain things. Like either your emotion gets numbed down or they get heightened on certain things. I think it's also a trauma response on certain aspects. And yeah, and again, I think it's also a little bit circling back to what we discussed previously. I also feel like sometimes people also kind of don't really realize what they're doing. It feels like it's not real, like it's a game that they're playing. And then I think once you've did something, again, part of you dies inside, which makes it easier to do it again. But it's just something how I envisioned things would go. But yeah, but in the book we also have people who are just born like that, like sociopaths or psychopaths. Like we also have those. We have variation in it.
Yeah. Well, the Nightmare Duet implies that there's a second book coming. I'm going to try to tread lightly here to not induce a spoiler. What can you say about where Georgia's story goes next? Which may seem like a funny way to say it, but I'm going to say it because it's technically Georgia's
Yeah,
story.
so, well, in book 2, it's going to be Pia's story
Okay.
because I want to continue the narrative from her side. So I want her to continue Georgia's story.
Okay. Gotcha.
I hope that's cryptic enough.
Yeah. Well, no, I assumed it was going to go that way, but yeah. That's not going to be a good time for Pia. Or
Probably
at least
not.
I don't think it is.
Probably not. In all honesty, I haven't even thought about her story, to be honest, because I'm working on like 500 other things. But I do want it out next year.
Okay.
And the only thing I know it's got to be titled A Shallow Dream.
A Shallow Dream. Okay.
And I think if you've read the book, you know at least where the shallow comes from.
Oh.
Because her personality is more
Gotcha.
shallow.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, she was yeah, I kind of got pissed off for Georgia when she came and sat down. She's like, nobody, like, yeah, couldn't possibly, anything good couldn't have possibly happened to me. Let's just make it all about you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Friends like that exist.
Mm-hmm. Well, across your work, there is a recurring theme of people surrendering their agency, sometimes willingly, but as we stated earlier, not necessarily willingly, just out of a sense of that they have no choice. Do you think people are afraid of freedom? I don't even know how to word this question exactly. Like, let me just skip to the end of the next question. What does freedom actually look like in a Lesley Camphouse story?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think it really depends on the character. I think it also really depends on what they are going through. I mean, for some, probably death feels like freedom. For others, might living with their trauma might feel like freedom. And I think if they are the perpetrator, the freedom probably feels in like living out what they've always been dreaming of doing.
Yeah. I've always wondered if the people that are as savage as the people in your books, is that by default have to be a sociopath? Or can someone be pushed to that, to where there's no coming back? Like just
I
complete,
think
like they
both.
were born with empathy, but just had, like, through whatever trauma, abuse, whatever, just had it just wrung out of them like a dish rag.
Yeah, I think both. Because trauma can definitely change you a lot. It can allow you to shut yourself off. It can allow you to feel less about certain things. I mean, I've experienced it myself that I don't really respond to certain things while normal people will be appalled by it because I've been exposed to it so often. It just, I don't know, it doesn't even register anymore. So that's why I would say both. I mean, obviously, there are people who are born either sociopaths or psychopaths, and they just have the drive to either play with people or they just have the desire to execute their things on people. And then I also really believe that people are being pushed in a certain way because basically you're being molded by your life, by the things that you experience, the things that you endure. And that's why, I mean, you also often, of course, see that people who kill other people, that they say something snapped. Yeah, I definitely understand that.
Well, extreme horror can be incredibly divisive. Some readers see it as transgressive art, others as gratuitous. When you finish a book, what would you rather hear from a reader? Quote, this destroyed me? Or, quote, this made me think?
Both.
You can't have both.
Because
You
why
can't have
not?
your
I
cake
want to
and eat
have
it
both,
too.
but I want to. Because I think part of it is interlinked with each other. Because I feel like if you finish the book and it destroyed you, it also makes you think. And I also feel like if it makes you think, it's because something clicked or resonated with you. So I do want to have both. I want them to feel both.
Okay. You,
No, but
I bequeath both.
no, but I think either is a compliment. Maybe if it says it destroyed me, it might sound strange to say it's a compliment, but I mean, it means that it evoked some sort of response from a reader. So it means that your words either made them, well, hope not relive something, but relive something, or because it resonated with them. And if it makes them think, it also means that it says something, that it woke something up inside of them. And obviously, I mean, I've also written books where I'm kind of like, I don't even have a thought behind it. So, I'm very surprised if people have thoughts about it, because I also feel sometimes books are just that, they're just a story that you read and they don't necessarily evoke anything from you.
Yeah, the words destroyed me. I mean, obviously, your book, the book I just read, I kind of developed a fondness for Georgia. So, like, the ending of the book, basically, as we've been talking about, destroyed me.
Yeah.
And that's the way I would describe. Have you ever seen that movie, Speak No Evil? It's literally the most hyperbolic, I guess you could say, serial killer story that is based on the constant pushing of boundaries,
Mm.
very slowly at first, just incremental until the next thing you know. I mean, I'm not going to ruin it, but that's the
Yeah.
way the story ends, is with the ultimate. Christian Taftrip is the guy's name. Him and his brother Mads wrote it.
Okay.
Christian directed it. Just like destroyed me. Like, me and my wife took like 2 weeks to recover, because
Oh,
we've
really?
both had issues with people pushing our boundaries. Had to work through it in
Right.
therapy. So to watch that, we're like, oh my God, you know.
It's like the
So
recognition that it's like the reliving of what you've experienced yourself then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, never got that bad.
No,
Like, because
well, thankfully,
this
yeah,
is
for sure.
this is horrific.
I haven't, I always feel bad because I rarely watch movies, so no, I haven't seen it. So I'll take
Oh
your
yeah,
word
I
on
mean,
it.
yeah. Ever since my wife and I have started like side businesses, we don't have time for movies. We used to watch movies all the time, though.
Hmm.
Well, I guess end on a personal note. Have there been any life-changing events since we last spoke? Has anybody optioned any of your books for films? Speaking of films,
um, no, I had somebody reach out to me a few months ago, but it never really came to something. I've had some other things, people reaching out like for translation or buying rights or stuff like that, but I don't know. I've been a little bit hesitant about it because, like what you just said in the beginning of the podcast, of course, that you get these messages from people. You're kind of like, I'm not really sure if this is real or if this is, like, what if I sign off my rights to something? I don't even understand what I'm signing off on. I think the biggest life-changing event was that some of my books went to audio on Friday Night Audio. I was super happy that they wanted to take me on.
tell
So
me
that's
about
really
Fright
cool.
Night.
Oh, what do you want to know about Friday? It's Friday Night Audio is one of or even the biggest one in audio for horror and extreme horror books.
Okay, so it's like Audible, but for horror and
Yeah,
okay, gotcha.
yeah. So I was really happy when they said that they wanted to work with me. So they took on all my work except for the last few, except for the 100th Hour, which comes out in December, and this one, and some of the collaborations they didn't take on. But for example, the one with Justin, the dark webs, they did take on. So that will also come to audio as well. So that's really cool because I never thought that would be an option for me because I'm in the Netherlands, I don't have access to Audible myself because you need to be in the UK or in the US for that. So yeah, so when I got introduced there and they were like, yeah, no, we want to give this a go, I was like, so that's
So
really
they're
cool.
worldwide.
I,
Is
th- I
that
think they're located in the US.
no? But I mean their reach. Like
Oh,
you were
yes.
saying, Audible only does the UK.
Yeah, so if I want to do it myself,
Mm-hmm.
I need to be in the UK or in the US
Okay.
because then you can do like the auditions and everything on it. But I
Oh,
never
the
had that
ACX.
opportunity because I don't have the access for it. So I always kind of thought that audiobooks would not be for me, at least not in the foreseeable future. But yeah, it's really cool that it is, and that my books are now out on audio.
Yeah, if like an absolute killer like Gaspar Noé or Pascal, I don't even know if Pascal Laugier directs anymore, or Julia Ducournau ever got a hold of one of your books, man, that would just be a banger. That would
Wait,
be.
what?
I was just saying, if Gaspar Noé or Pascal Laugier, I don't even know if he directs anymore, or Julia Ducournau, just three really like boundary pushing directors. If they ever got a hold
Oh,
of one of your books, holy shit, would that be a banger? Like,
hey,
it would
send
be
them my way. It would
intense.
be awesome.
Yeah. Well,
But
I wish I knew them. If I ever somehow get them on the show, I'll be like, hey, have you heard of Lesley?
hey, by the way, yeah, that would be amazing. I highly doubt it, but that would be amazing. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, Lesley, as always, it has been a pleasure talking with you.
Same as well. I'm always super nervous, but I always have a great time. So,
Yeah. Love having you on the show. Well, so as we bring the show to a close, is there anything you'd like to plug, reiterate, or let your readers know about?
the only thing I want to plug is the fact that Justin and I have started our book 3 in the Dark Web series. And we hit the 10K yesterday. So, I don't know, Christmas, January, something like that. Probably the fast that we write together. But yeah, that's really cool. That one is coming. And I'm also dipping in dark romance. So expect that more for next year as well. And that's really it.
All right. Sounds good. Well, listeners at home, all links are in the description. And Lesley, thank you again for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to everyone who tuned in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday for a new episode featuring the best and brightest authors and filmmakers of dark literature and film. So until then, stay healthy, stay sane, and as always, thank you for listening. See you next time.